We have a trade to announce. The Edmonton Oilers trade Cam Talbot to the Philadelphia Flyers for Anthony Stolarz. For more, here are Ian Reed and Hockey Jerk.
Hey,
you're muted.
Yeah, I know. I was trying to type stuff and I didn't want to have clickety clackety sounds.
Yeah, we're back on, guys. Breaking news.
Breaking news. Yeah, so Cam Talbot is now on the Philadelphia Flyers for Anthony Stolarz, who, Anthony Stolarz obviously was a big deal at one point, but then this Carter Hart guy kind of changed plans there and kind of made him a little expendable.
His name is Starter Hart?
Starter Hart, you're right. My bad. My bad. My bad.
Oh, man. Well, all right. Well, initial reaction. Philadelphia, them making this trade, it tells me that Starter Hart is, in fact, the starter for them because I believe Cam Talbot and Starter Hart, they trained together in the summer. So there's a relationship there. But also, very interesting that Philadelphia would do Edmonton a solid like that by giving them cap space without
cap space,
getting anything back. Edmonton can now activate Andre Sekera, which surprises me because I didn't think he was going to be back all season.
Oh, he's been on rehab in Bakersfield.
Yeah, well, even that was a surprise to me. Like I said, I assumed he would be out the whole year.
Mm.
Some of the interesting tweets. Dmitry Filipovic saying the only important takeaway of the Cam Talbot trade is the Flyers can now use their 8th goalie this season.
Setting NHL records.
NHL record, 8th goalie.
Wow, this is. Is this the first domino to fall? Who knows? I don't know. But I think it's a good move. Obviously, it's a good move for Edmonton. Edmonton gains. I think Stolarz. I don't know if I'm as high as Stolarz as I once was, but I still think he's got some promise to him. Moving from one goalie deathbed to another.
And we talked about goalies with hip issues on our main show, which if you are watching this one live and you missed the main show, we did an hour and a half not too long ago. So go check that out.
Right.
We talked about Corey Schneider and his bad hips. Anthony Stolarz also had hip surgery and missed a full year. And so he's trying to come back and basically restart his career because this season hasn't been so good for him. So
I just feel like other than Starter Hart, and look at Starter Hart's had a small sample size of games so far. So maybe we should, pump the brakes a little bit. But this is the guy who has, this is the only guy, it's been such a goalie graveyard in Philly. It seems like no matter who they get, it just doesn't work. Change of pace for him in Edmonton, probably a good thing. I still think that the Mikko Koskinen deal was an overpay.
Oof, that was bad.
But I don't know. I don't know. I'd be interested to see what Oiler fans are thinking. I'm kind of watching my Twitter feed to see what they're thinking about it. I
quick get Trin Potrats.
Yeah, where's Trin? I'd be curious to say I don't hate the idea of a tandem of Stolarz and Koskinen though. I think Cam Talbot, obviously his time there was done. After that Koskinen deal was signed, the writing was on the wall. But I don't know. Is this an upgrade? Is it a lateral move? I haven't decided.
Alex Martinet is in the chat. Thanks for jumping back on with us. He says Edmonton just cammed this.
They just cammed this. Yeah. It's crazy to think we were talking about how on our main show with Ottawa, how quickly things changed with Ottawa, how they went from being, in the Eastern Conference Final Game 7 overtime to where they are. Cam Talbot is a guy that, a couple seasons ago could do no wrong. And I think, had his stock inflated a little bit by the fact that I don't know. Like maybe this is just the Sharks homer in me talking. What are you laughing at?
I'm reading the replies of the Oilers press release, and for the most part, it's saying, "Oh, we'll miss you, Cam. Good luck." Da 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 da. There's one here. I thought Chiarelli got fired. LOL.
Wow.
But back to my point, though, I think I think that the Oilers did get a little overinflated by beating a very beat up Sharks team. A mangled Sharks team in the playoffs and winning that series. And then, I mean, they did okay. They weren't just completely destroyed in the next round, but I don't know. Like, I don't know how I feel about this trade. I just don't know.
I think this is a good opportunity just for Cam Talbot to, I'm not going to say resurrect his career, because I don't think he's going to resurrect his career in Philly. But I think it's a way of just getting out of Edmonton and having kind of like a refresh in preparation of hitting the UFA market, and, you know, having a little bit of a confidence boost going into the market.
Right.
Somebody quote tweeted my tweeting of the link and said the Oilers are stupid.
There you go.
So that's an idea of how people feel about this trade. It's just, from what I've been able to glean from Twitter, it sounds like it's pretty mixed reactions from the Oilers faithful.
I'm guessing from the Oilers standpoint, it's addition by subtraction. You're safe in that cap space. I don't understand what prorated cap space of 3.4 is. I mean, I know that cap space, depending on injuries and the number of days that have gone through the season, that can fluctuate, but how you trade prorated cap space, that's weird to me. But nevertheless, I think you're looking at the first piece in a big sell-off with the Oilers.
Well, they have to, right? Like, I mean,
Ryan Spooner's next, right?
Yeah, maybe. I don't know.
Brandon Manning.
Oh.
Because that's the thing with the Oilers, right? Like, I mean, you know, I brought this up on last week, was, you know, this was a team that entered a game with like $8 million not even playing in it. And I think, you know, Cam Talbot it just wasn't working. And when they made the deal to go to Koskinen, which, you know, apparently wasn't just all Chiarelli, it was the entire brain trust, which just shows you how rotten that brain trust is. You know, they had to do something with Cam Talbot at that point. You can't, you know, we watched Dallas with Kari Lehtonen and Antti Niemi. It didn't work. Just doesn't work when you have $8 bajillion worth of goalies on your team. So, I mean, Cam Talbot had to go.
They didn't learn from Dallas.
No one learns from Dallas. Dallas didn't learn from Dallas.
I will say too, the replies on the Flyers press release are even better.
Okay.
There are a couple people who tweeted out the GIF of the guy who's like looking to the left and then looks at the camera and it zooms in and there's all the question marks. Fantastic usage of GIF, by the way. There's one that is a one of those. Now that's what I call music album covers, except instead of music, they shopped that out and put effing yikes.
What the heck? I see it. We got Judge Judy.
Yeah, poor Stellars. Another meme, a guy on a machine gun turret shooting the laughing emojis. So one person's floor, another person's ceiling, right?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, Steve Dangle, and I kind of agree with this. I mean, you know, it's a fine deal for Edmonton. They've you know, like I've said a couple times, you know, they've committed to Koskinen. They get a younger guy who's going to be an RFA. You know, whether Stolarz becomes anything at the NHL level, he's a guy that's not going to demand. He has no ground to demand any money as an RFA, so he's going to be cheap.
Well, and if Stolarz doesn't play 10 or more games, then he actually becomes Group 6.
Yeah.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, and even if he does play the 10 games, I think he just gets not tendered by the Oilers in the offseason.
And that's always possible too.
Huh?
And they said that's possible too.
Yeah. You just triggered something. I had heard apparently recently Cam Talbot's been getting all the starts, like since Mikko Koskinen signed that contract. he only had like 3 starts or something like that, and Talbot started the rest. So this trade had to happen because it was becoming a matter of, why did you sign this guy to a ridiculous in Koskinen to a ridiculous contract to not play him?
Yeah, I mean, that just, oh, man, Edmonton is so dysfunctional. Like,
So is Milan Lucic next?
Don't you just buy with that contract?
That's a hefty buyout, though.
It is.
Even still, but you're Daryl Katz. You have the money.
As you say, yeah, that and just is compliance buyout such a thing anymore? I know, obviously
not. A lockout.
No, I know.
I mean,
Edmonton's probably like,
right?
Can we get the lockout 2 years ahead of schedule so that we can get a compliance buyout on Milan Lucic?
I was gonna say it could be nice if you can get those like on credit.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, you know, it's look at Carter Hart's going to be the guy in Philly. We know this.
Starter
Hart. I mean, obviously, Starter Hart. You know, like, again, look at, he's done really good so far, and there's no reason to think that he won't. I mean, this guy was ridiculous in junior, and I know that doesn't always translate to the NHL, but there's no reason for me to believe that, you know, Carter Hart's not going to be a top goaltender in this league. Period.
Yeah. Carter Hart is. Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
I was going to say Carter Hart is one of the most frustrating things for me as a prognosticator this season, because I know it wasn't just me, because pretty much everybody, but I was really on the whole horse of, why are you calling up Carter Hart? He hasn't been good in Lehigh Valley. He's had 2 good weeks this season, and now you bring him up. What are you doing? And he's proven everybody wrong on that.
Yeah,
but it makes no sense. He really should be having a 3.45 goals against average for Philly.
Like, again, like, I mean, so Stolarz was never going to be the guy. Period.
Yeah.
Chances are, with the way, you know, if everything goes the way it's, you know, I'm sure that Flyers would like it to go. You know, Cam Talbot's going to go in there. He's going to be, you know, he's going to be able to pick up some games. He's going to set the record for goalies played by one team in a season. I mean, how can you go wrong with that?
Hey, so with Talbot out of the picture, and I really think Stolarz just ends up going overseas next season or something like that. You've got Koskinen, who I don't see him as being more than a backup. Al Montoya's out.
Mm-hmm.
Their next goalie is Shane Starrett, who, you know, have you guys heard of this guy? I have, obviously, because I know everybody, but I mean, Shane Starrett is like, you know, gotta think that the Oilers go after a goalie this offseason.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm completely stoled, though, that they don't keep Stolarz. I don't know why. Stolarz still has, like, I still think there's a lot of upside with this kid. I don't know.
I do too, but I also just, the Hockey Jerk said Group 6 free agent potential. Right? Or maybe you said that, Ian.
No,
usually those are the signs of guys that just get let go.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, but who do they have again, right? Like,
no, they have nobody.
So, I mean, I don't know. I to me, it seems like I would have, you know, I would want to keep Stolarz as a guy in my system, but this is Edmonton, and you miss 100% of the talented players you don't take.
Go ahead. I was just gonna say, I think at this point, I mean, you're both probably right in that he'll just, you know, get let go at the end of the year. But I mean, it all depends, because I feel like the smart individual would say that the Oilers would be better off keeping him, because you never know what he might be able to mold into. But at the same time, you know, Edmonton has made it very clear that they think that they can be a playoff contender. And to your point, Ian, if you're a playoff contender, you're going to at least be trying to go out and get a solid starting goaltender.
But with the money they paid Koskinen, isn't Koskinen that guy, apparently?
Well, you'd think, but again, it was money that Chiarelli paid, while the new guy may think it's the worst thing ever.
I don't agree. No, there's no. I can't imagine if they're gonna fire. Like, this is the thing that always confuses me about Edmonton. I can't imagine that Chiarelli's on the hot seat that badly to the point where he gets fired and has complete unilateral, like, at that point of where he has complete to make that Koskinen deal, like that it doesn't, that no one upstairs doesn't say, no, this is not what's happening. Like, I can't just pin that all on Chiarelli. It defies logic that Chiarelli, being that close to the door, would have unilateral say on that kind of a deal, spending that much money on another goaltender. Like, to me, that just makes no sense. And it's Edmonton, so maybe that's the way it happened. But I have a hard time believing that it was just Chiarelli on his own, like that the upper brain trust didn't sign off on it.
Yeah, I mean, I could see it go. I could see it go either way, because obviously, on one hand, they let Chiarelli have a lot of real estate to operate with these last few years, but at the same time,
which close to the end.
Well, that's what I'm saying, which makes me think that Chiarelli would be on his own accord, but at the same time, whether it's Bob Nicholson or Keith Gretzky or Kevin Lowe or whoever, they're all very much involved in the operation. So in a way, I also can see where you're coming from. Like you said, it's Edmonton, so I'm really not sure.
I have a hard time thinking that Chiarelli was just able to act unilaterally at that point. Nothing was going upstairs. I mean, considering especially the way the season started, right? Like, ownership kind of getting involved a little bit and, saying things have to, turn around quickly. And I don't know. I have a hard time imagining that Chiarelli has just complete unilateral say at that point. So I think Koskinen's their guy. And look at, Stolarz is what, 6 years younger than Cam? Like, it's not like he's, Stolarz is this old guy. He's still young. Even if he's not playing, even if he's playing in Bakersfield next year,
Yeah.
Why? I just see it as a guy, like, why do you just let him go? Like, what, you're going to sign him for nothing as an RFA because he hasn't earned anything yet as, to make that kind of money, unless he goes Group 6. But even then, he's going to make peanuts. I don't know why, what's the harm in keeping that around and seeing what you get out of it. If he turns out to be nothing, I mean, what did you invest? A few $100,000? Big deal.
Well, and that's the other thing too, is say you keep him around 1 year, 2 years, whatever, and let him play some games and see what happens. I mean, we could easily see a situation where Stolarz wins the net from Koskinen, and then we're here again.
Yeah.
Edmonton.
Edmonton will end up with like Mike Smith next year to battle with Koskinen. Maybe something like that. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I know, Kevin, you were talking earlier on our last show about how
our last show, 20 minutes
ago.
Yeah.
Hey, we're doing great. We got 2 shows in one night now. we're getting our quota back up.
Yeah, we're making up for lost time.
So I guess you mentioned about having, a veteran players around kind of young guys.
Yeah.
How do you think that Talbot now being in the fold with Starter Hart, who, like I said, they have a past relationship together. Do you think that's going to help him, or do you think this is just like a 1 year, stability thing, and then that's it?
I think it's going to help Hart. But I don't know the relationship between Talbot and Hart. I know there is a relationship. I don't know what that is. So I think part of that is a good tryout for, if maybe not for Talbot, if anything for Philly, to be like, maybe this is a guy who we can platoon with Hart as he continues his development. I got to think that, goaltenders, they're a quirky bunch, but because of that, they, usually their closest confidant, the starter's closest confidant is their backup goalie and vice versa, unless maybe the goalie coach. So I think it's really good for Hart in the sense of Philly's had a lot of weird drama this year.
Right.
Long losing streaks. Now they're on a good winning streak, but I mean, the coach is getting fired, and I guess the players were disgruntled, and now Wayne Simmons probably will be on his way out. So that's a big hit to their leadership and whatnot. So I think with all that kind of instability in Philadelphia, if you can kind of bubble Carter Hart away from that and be like, here's your buddy Cam Talbot, and all is right. Don't worry about everything else going on. Just you guys be you, and you'll be fine, kind of thing. So
that and two, I think too, what it does is, I mean, to your point, Philadelphia is theoretically closer to the playoffs than Edmonton is. And so say you have a situation, we've seen it many times before, where rookies will hit that wall. If starter Hart hits that wall, maybe it would be beneficial for them to have a Cam Talbot, who is not the greatest goaltender, but at least has some playoff experience under his belt, to come in and clean it up. Plus, again, we all know what Brian Elliott is capable of. So I think getting some insurance in the form of Cam Talbot, I don't want to say it's a slam dunk for Philly, but I think it'll help if everything goes according to plan for them.
Yeah. I still think Cam Talbot has some legs left in him. Like, I don't think the year he had 2 years ago was a fluke. I don't think he will ever match that year, but I mean, look at a guy like Brian Boucher, who had one pretty good year, maybe two pretty good years. Then he had a couple of really bad years like what Cam Talbot has had. But then he kind of overcame that and just became a very solid, dependable, Sharks fans know it, dependable backup goalie the rest of his career. And that's not a bad thing. And I think that's kind of the road Cam Talbot's going to end up going. Like, I still think he's got some legs left in him.
Yeah, I think, Cam Talbot, I agree with that. I think, I don't foresee Cam Talbot ever being a starter on a contending team in the league. But a good backup to, a guy who can come in and play some quality games and give you, like you said, Brian Boucher, like the games that Aaron Dell gave the Sharks last year, not so much this year. Like, yeah, like I can definitely see that for Cam Talbot. Now, at whatever it is, like 3 point whatever million that he's making, is that is that good for that money? No, clearly not. But with when his contract's up, little market correction, I think, I don't think Cam Talbot's like not an NHL goalie. He's just not a starter on a contending team.
Yeah. And I guess where I was trying to go with this is a good thing for Philly is that Philly can kind of make that decision. I still think Talbot hits the market no matter what, but it's not to say he couldn't end up going back to Philly next year, because if Philly likes what they see out of him these last 25 games, they might be able to say, hey, here's $2 million. Come nurture Hart some more,
So I did some research and I read an article. It only refers to Talbot as Carter Hart's mentor. It doesn't really go into it beyond that, but it sounds like they trained together over the summer, and Cam Talbot was the one that Carter Hart called before his first NHL start. So yeah, evidently there's a relationship there. And to your point, I don't remember which one of you said it, but Brian Elliott and Michael Neuvirth are both unrestricted at summer's end. So like you said,
I forgot they even have Neuvirth.
Yeah. So like you said, if they do want to say, hey, Cam Talbot, here's $2 million, they would be able to, because they're not going to have 12,000 goalies.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. I don't hate this. I don't hate this deal for them, to be completely honest.
For Philly, no.
For Philly, no. I don't really hate it for either team. Like, I think they both teams got what they needed.
Yeah.
Edmonton got cap space, and Philly, you know, I guess they don't really do anything right now, but going forward, maybe they like what they see at Cam Talbot as a backup and as a guy who can, you know, insulate Carter Hart from other drama around the team, because that's a tough market. You know, obviously, look at Carter Hart's been great so far, but every goalie has their rough patch, and having a guy like, you know, Cam Talbot on hand for him, I mean, that's not a terrible thing either.
Yeah, definitely.
Nice word use of insulate. That's really really good.
I'm more just interested because, you know, it's for Philadelphia. I mean, even though they have the room for it, right? It's still a healthy amount of cap space to take on. If you're Philadelphia, and like we talked about earlier, Stolarz is decent, but he's not some, you know, it's very possible that he's just unqualified at season's end, or he becomes Group 6.
Right.
And so I'm kind of wondering if we'll see a deal, maybe not this deadline, but at some point where it's Philly and Edmonton again, and maybe what Edmonton gives up is a little more.
Yeah,
what Philly deserves.
That's a great point. It's something that crossed my mind when you said, what are they doing?
Because the one comparable that I make, if you recall, Vegas was going to take Marc-Andre Fleury anyway, but Pittsburgh encouraged them to do so by throwing a second-round pick their way, which is why I believe, you fast forward to last season, Vegas is so willing to retain some Derek Brassard money, even though they absolutely do not have to.
Yeah.
Here's the thing that's interesting too, though, because like one of the big guys that we all agreed is probably getting traded at the deadline is Wayne Simmons. The cap hits are very comparable.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, from a cap perspective, I don't know if you're the Flyers. I mean, are you really? I think you're. I think if you're you know, the Flyers, I don't think you're really all in at this point, right? Like you're kind of just trying to get through the season.
Shouldn't be.
You shouldn't be. I mean, you're going to have to make some deals next year. I mean, you're going to have to, you know, Provorov's going to need a new deal. I don't think he's going to break the bank, but he's going to need a new RFA deal. I mean, you got some guys that are coming up anyway. But I mean, this is a team that needs to, you know, retool a little bit.
Yeah, I think the Flyers need to be sellers, and I think that Lehigh Valley's been too good for too long now. Just like what I was talking about earlier about San Diego, how their time came and Bob Murray did not act on it, and all these guys are elsewhere. I think this is a great opportunity for the Flyers to be like, all right, we're going to ship a few of these guys out, and we're going to give guys like Obe Kubel and Oscar Lindblom a better look, because I know he has been getting a better look. I can't remember who got traded, but you know, just players that, oh God, what's that now? Vecchione and Greg Carey, all-star for the AHL, who put up a bajillion goals this season for them. You know,
and you got guys like that are going to be coming in that are going to need those spots on Lehigh Valley. Like you got a guy like Morgan Frost, who, if he doesn't make the team out of camp, which is possible, you know, is a guy that's going to fill a spot on Lehigh Valley. He's going to need minutes. To go. You have the youngest Strome, also
Matthew Strome,
should be also making the jump to pro next year. So I mean, those are guys like, you know, you got to make room for those. And look at this team baffles my brain, because they have players like it's another team where it's like they have players, but you know, did they spend their cap money inappropriately? Yeah, maybe a little bit.
See, now to go back just a couple minutes, you mentioned, I believe it was Kevin, how Wayne Simmons, how his cap hit is very similar to Cam Talbot's.
Oh, that was Ian.
Okay, yeah. The thing that I'm just thinking of, because supposedly, even though they're not really in the playoffs, supposedly Edmonton is looking for a net front guy to play with Connor McDavid. I mean, is that a match? Like, no, if they can re-sign him,
because if they can re-sign him, maybe. But I mean, it's a rental, right? And Edmonton doesn't need a rental.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the thing. If they can, I mean, I don't know. As not good as Lucic has been, I mean, he wanted to be in Edmonton to play with McDavid. You know,
Yeah,
so
I mean that day one presser when he said, "I'm Connor," me and Connor are gonna light up the storm or whatever it was. To where I was just saying, is McDavid to get a say in this? You're just throwing yourself on McDavid's line all of a sudden.
Pretty wild. I don't know. I mean, it's interesting. I mean, both teams are in weird places. The Edmonton Oilers are obviously a disaster. I don't think the Flyers are a mess, but they should be less than, like, Edmonton has mismanaged their way to where they are. There's a lot on, like I said, there's a lot in the Flyers pipeline that I still like. There's a lot of, there's a lot to still like on that team. That team, in my opinion, should be better.
Yeah. I like that you mentioned Morgan Frost.
He's solid.
How can I not mention Morgan Frost?
I think the other player, just talking about players on the move, the other one I really expect to go is Michael Raffl. I don't know where, but I really think Michael Raffl ends up getting traded.
I've never really been a fan of his, so I could see it.
Yeah,
possible. Yeah,
Flyers are in an interesting spot. They might be in a similar spot to the Sharks, where they kind of just need, because I mean, what if they are good enough to make the playoffs, but then they're like, nope, they're going to sell off. I almost wonder if they should just stay the course as well, and just let the chips fall as they may.
It's hard because you have, like, I just think with the Flyers, they're in a weird cap situation, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, you've got $16 million tied up between Giroux and Voracek.
But that's why it's funny that they're retaining a lot of this or no, I'm sorry. Never mind. Backwards. Never mind.
So it's like, I don't know. And you have where they put their money is kind of, Andrew McDonald making $5 million. Like, that's, man, there's just, some really weird contracts on this team.
Unless it's like a hockey trade, right? Where maybe if you're Philadelphia, maybe you trade Wayne Simmons, who is a pending UFA. Maybe you trade him for something that you can use this season and many seasons after the fact.
I think that's it. I think the Flyers. I mean, the Flyers used to be a big team in free agency, and I think maybe under not Hextall they returned to that too. Like, yeah, I mean, obviously
Holmgren's back in charge, so
wasn't it Cliff Fletcher now?
Oh, is it?
I'm pretty sure Cliff Fletcher's the GM.
Chuck Fletcher.
Chuck Fletcher, sorry, not Cliff. Chuck, yes.
Okay.
Mr. Chuck Fletcher. But I mean, like, other than, like, yes, they made a big splash on James Van Riemsdyk. Did they overpay him? Yeah. But but this is a team that used to be able to bring in talent on free agency like no one's business. And I just wonder if when you get guys like Simmons and Raffl, off the book, there's almost $5 million. And you still got young guys. Like, I mean, Nolan Patrick is only still, he's got his entry level contract for a couple more years. I don't think Travis Konechny's going to demand a huge amount of money.
He's had a good year for them, though.
He's had a good year. But is it going to be is it going to be like, this isn't like a Mitch Marner type deal?
No. Oh,
right.
No.
Like that's what I mean. Like, you know what I mean? Like, he's not. They don't really have anybody that's going to be coming into like a big contract other than maybe Carter Hart in 4 years. And that's just disgusting to think about too. So I mean, like, for the Flyers, like they're in I feel like the Flyers are in a good position because I still feel like Claude Giroux had a little bit of down, but he's been more up lately. I don't like the Van Riemsdyk, but there's going to be room for them to put people in, to plug people into this roster, and still be able to and still be under the cap. Because they're already, what, 7 million? I think they're almost 8 million under the cap right now. The Flyers can be a cap team. They have the money.
Yeah.
They just need to be a cap team for the right reasons. And that's why I think, like, the Flyers from this, the Flyers coming out of this trade, like, I think they're in a good place because, again, like you said, Cam Talbot's off the books next year. You can bring him back for less money, or you can find a different goalie to play with Carter Hart. It's just plugging some of these holes on the blue line and plugging, maybe another offensive target. And I just, hey, maybe the Flyers are a team that surprises people and they go after a guy like Artemi Panarin. Like Artemi Panarin on the Flyers is kind of scary.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, especially man. I mean, especially too with what Philadelphia's been up to the last 2 years. I mean, shifting Giroux to play on Sean Couturier's wing. I mean, that's Giroux I've always seen as more of a goal scorer, anyways.
Yes.
And so you have him in a shooting capacity on that wing, and then again, hypothetically, you throw in Artemi Panarin on the other side of that. I mean, that could easily be a terrifying pair.
Yeah. Absolutely. Like that's I mean, I would be if I'm I'd rather be a Flyers fan than a Oilers fan right now. That's
what about it. What about a Minnesota Wild fan?
I would never be a Minnesota Wild fan.
Yikes.
I mean, oh man, Minnesota. I couldn't do it. Like again, star power. At least Edmonton, I get to watch Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl. Maybe they lose, but they're still awesome to watch. Minnesota, I watch paint dry. Flyers, I watch goaltending implosions. I don't know.
No. So, who's got to be really mad about this trade? The Vancouver Canucks. Because they had to put poor Mikey DiPietro in against the Sharks on Monday.
Oof.
Because they didn't have any goalies and they lost Mike McKenna to waivers to Philadelphia. And they got to be like, you couldn't have made this trade 2 weeks ago.
Oh my goodness.
That we could have had Mike McKenna in. Sure, it's still Mike McKenna. But hey, Mike McKenna has won one more game against the Sharks than Mikey DiPietro has in his career. So,
you know what though? I mean, DiPietro is going to be fine. Like I think Mikey DiPietro is going to be fine. It sucks. I remember, when Jacob Markstrom played his first game as a Vancouver Canuck, I believe was also against the Sharks, and that ended very terrible for him. And he's actually had a decent season this year. Actually,
oh yeah, yes.
You want goalies that have actually been surprises this year. I think that Markstrom's definitely been one of them, because I mean that was my comment on them. It's like, okay, yeah, they Elias Pettersson's probably going to be good and they've got some scorers, but who's going to play goal? Jacob Markstrom. And then I snickered or laughed hysterically. I don't remember which, but I maybe I have to eat my words a little bit on that right now, because it's actually been okay.
So,
he's been amazing. He's been okay.
So on the Twitter, somebody said the fact that a goaltender got traded to the Flyers and it drastically improved the forecast for his future is a new low for the Edmonton Oilers.
Oh my God, that's amazing.
Somebody else said, I look forward to Stolarz posting one shutout and getting a 5-year contract.
Yeah.
Hey, maybe this trade is to course correct my preseason prediction. For those preseason predictions, please go back into the archives and also subscribe.
Yeah.
Where I said the Philadelphia Flyers will be the surprise team of the league and make the playoffs this year. Maybe when they trade Wayne Simmons and Raffle and all this stuff, maybe Cam Talbot and Carter Hart will drag the Flyers into the playoffs the way Aaron Dell dragged the Barracuda a few years ago.
Oh, man.
And so maybe this trade is my justice for my prediction. I don't know.
I just don't see it.
I honestly, though, I can't be the only one who gets enjoyment when two teams who kind of always throw their name into the turmoil hat hook up for a trade, isn't it? I always find it very enjoyable.
Yeah. It gets us to go back on the air, that's for sure.
Yeah.
For those of you who are still watching, this literally was Hockey Jerk, or I think it was Hockey Jerk, saying Cam Talbot just got traded to the Edmonton Oilers. And what's the title that you gave this episode?
Let's get on right now.
Yeah, that was literally what I said. Let's get on right now. And Ian was like, right now? And I'm like, yes, right now. And we just... Here we are, guys.
Yeah,
I was back in my dressing room. I was getting my makeup taken off, and then we had to go back on the air.
Yeah. But thank you for joining. Bonus coverage. Bonus trade deadline almost coverage.
It's a big trade. This might be the biggest trade of the trade deadline. You never know. And we were on it right away.
Yeah.
Remember that.
You heard it here first.
We do not have enough production to put up a trade center deadline clock in the upper left-hand corner of the screen. However, we were here for you to break the Cam Talbot trade. So,
is this a new low for us, maybe?
Because we were still around to do to break the Cam Talbot trade.
Oh my goodness! All right, we could kick at the Edmonton Oilers for the rest of the night and probably keep going. I think a hangout can last 8 hours, and I don't think we could even. I think we'd fill all that and then some talking about the Oilers and how bad they are. But we've done a lot of talking, and my throat's getting kind of dry, so I am going to 40 minutes later after we just did
40 minutes for breaking news. Holy moly.
We're the worst. All right, so. With that, I'm not even going to do final thoughts. I'm just going to say thanks for tuning back in. Again, we're hoping to do this again next week. And
or at 1 a.m.
Or whatever. Who knows what's going to happen next? Keep tuned. Who knows? There might be another trade. We may have to come back on. I may have no voice at that point, but that's fine. All right. Have a good one, guys. See you later. Bye.